I'm back. Well, what have we got this time? Great looking amp, huh? Well, I recovered this on an earlier video, and yeah, I bought this off eBay for about £250 or £300, something like that. That's about $400, give or take. And yeah, great amp. TSL100. Yeah. Triple super lead, it says here. Yeah. JCM2000 as well, they call it. That's its other name. But you know what? I had one of these in about 2004 onwards. And I recorded a track called, what was it called? Metropolis, from an album I made called ENIAC. And yeah, you'll be able to listen to it for a few seconds now. Here we go. Well, there you go. You get the idea. An incredibly sounding, brilliantly sounding amp. And that's why I bought this one. I'd sold that one some years ago. I wish I hadn't, but there you go. So I got talking to someone about these, and he said, "Oh, you must have had the problems, right?" I said, "What problems?" Yeah, he said, "Oh yeah, they're awful. They keep blowing up and the bias keeps going out and floating away and doing the tubes and stuff like that." So I did a little bit of investigating, and it turns out that the original amp, before revision 7 on the PCB, the main PCB, either had wrong resistors in it or wrong capacitors, or the board was made of this material that as it got warmer it soaked and allowed the bias to float away, which blew the tubes and all sorts of problems. So I did my own investigation, and I spoke to Marshall about it at one stage, and they said, "Oh yeah, we got a newer board, you know, the current board's version 20. What version have you got?" type of thing. And I didn't know. So I just decided to take a look at this one and treat this as a review of how to upgrade the board. Now you only plug it in and plug it out, which is the fortunate thing. There's a few other things which we're going to cover, but anyway, what I'm going to do is whip this chassis out so we can have a look at the board that's in it. That's got to be the first task. So hold on. Oh, by the way, I have got another board to put in it, a revision 20, so it should all be good. And even if it is revision 20, I'm going to change it anyway, just for the hell of it. So hold on, let me get that out. There now, that didn't take long, did it? There it is. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to faff around with the top. It's all been done, that as in 2016 when I signed it. So I'm going to flip it over and let's take a quick look at what's going on inside. Yeah, sounds like a plan. Well, here we are. And I can tell you straight off that this is a low revision board. So it's probably going to be suffering over time from the sort of things that those early boards did. The board I have over there, just off camera, is revision 20. Let me just go get it. Hold on. Okay, well, here it is. A replacement Marshall motherboard. And this one, yeah, well, It's different. That's what I'd say to you. In fact, it's quite different. And it's quite different around these resistors. In fact, these resistors are part of the problem that existed on the early ones. And yeah, like I said, it's quite a few different little changes down here. But we'll probably have a look at the other board and this board together when we get it out closer on camera. This one's revision 20, so they didn't make any after revision 20. So this one's just about perfect. That one in there is just about less perfect. I think that's revision 6. This one says revision 00074-20. That one says 00074-06. So that's likely a revision 6. So it's going to come out. Well, it is actually possible to take this top plate off. You have to undo some screws underneath as well. And then you can lift the whole top off and then probably change the board easier than if you was trying to take the back or the front off. Just a plan. Well, I'm back. Well, what a nightmare. It's difficult to do, and what I'd recommend you do is that you take note of all the connections before you take the board off. There's a lot of connections. And what's really scary is if you're coming from a revision 6 board to a revision 20 board, there's a couple of connectors. There's connector 15 and connector 16 that don't exist on revision 6. So that should be exciting. At least it is for me. I'll find the answer out, but there you go. If you look up there, you can see on this board, down at this end, you probably won't see it from there, but right down at this end is a capacitor that's completely burned out. So the earlier boards do have a bit of a reputation, and it's only just in time that I found this one. The board's actually burned. Yeah, the track's actually burned. So I'm not even going to try and fix it. What I'm going to do is find the answers for C15 and C16 and then show you what happened with that. But quite a complex machine, and you know, don't go near this unless you know what you're doing. Who, me? Boom. I'll go and find the answers and come back. Well, I'm back, and yeah, fiddly to change that motherboard, but there's a few things in the motherboard that can be really scary, especially when you're doing this if you're not really familiar with you know, what you're doing and things. So don't go and do it if you don't know what you're doing. You could end up with lots of trouble. Anyway, mine's on at the moment, and it's sitting there cooking the tubes, ready for me to check the bias and things like that. But just before that, I wanted to talk about that motherboard and the new motherboard, and some things that could get you confused a little. Hold on. Now, I've got the old motherboard here. Oh, looks fair enough, doesn't it? Except that if you look up in the screen up there, you'll see this capacitor that was blown. And the reason it's blown and burned out is because when you go and look at the circuit diagram, and this is the newer circuit diagram, the TL100 DGM, this drawing shows that capacitor at 1 kilovolt, 22 pico. Now, the thing is, on the original board, that was 500 volts, not 1K. So what happens is it overloads this capacitor and burns it out. But of course the board's riddled with other problems as well. This particular board out of the amplifier was revision 6. And revision 5 and 6 and, well, we've got 4, 5, 6, 7 and 20. Now that must tell you something. 4, 5, 6, 7 and then 20. The board that I put in was revision 20. So if you've got one of these older boards and you think it's all okay, you'll go and read the things on the internet and you'll be all over the place. You'll have terrible trouble. You'll wish you'd never bought the amp, but in reality there's a solution. And the solution isn't necessarily what all them boys are telling you to do. Indeed, the solution is to take out this piece of junk that you've got, because you're never really going to fix it unless you spend hours and hours and hours, and then maybe it'll work or maybe it won't, or it could be 1,000 things and problems. Go and get a new board. You want a revision, you want a Series 20, I think they call it, issue 20. Yeah, that's what it says down here on my little diagram off the internet. Issue 20, as I said, TL10-60-02 DGM. That's a drawing. But you're going to have a problem. And when you put your new board in, you're going to go, oh my God, now I've got trouble. Well, the differences between these two boards, we'll cover a little bit more in a minute when we've got this cleaned and out of the way and all the rest. You can see the board at the end. However, when you fit your new board in, I have the diagram so I can tell you what's where. You'll have a connector number 15 on the new board that doesn't exist on the old board. Now, that can send you a bit dotty because you can immediately think it's never going to work, which is the normal cause. But this connection 15 comes off the bridge rectifier, and all it is, it's a plus and a minus in a little connector off the bridge rectifier. Simple enough, right? And there's another connection, connection 16. I've got an itch on my nose. Yeah, connection 16 is also, it's a sort of in parallel connection to connection 8, so you don't really need to do anything with that either. So those two are two connections on the board that you don't have to do anything with if you're on a TSL100 JCM2000. That's cleared things up a bit, hasn't it? Now you'll be able to make it just work. Other things to be commending about or talking about are the resistors that are these days on revision 20. Seem to be perfect. In fact, everything seems to be perfect on revision 20, and there's even it's even got a solenoid for switching, whereas on this old board, well, it hasn't. It's got, well, a mishmash of a few different discrete components. Let's just say that the new board doesn't have any problems and the old board absolutely does. So let's move this stuff away now. I just wanted to cover that because guys that go and get the new board would be very stuck, or, oh my God, what do I do now? If you haven't got the diagram, for example. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bias this one. It's all very simple, really. Well, it is for me. There's probably 1,000 other ways of doing this, but I'm going to do it the easy way. Well, I would, wouldn't I? Let me get rid of this. Now, if you look at this amp, it's turned on. It's got a thing here, so I know it works. Let's listen. Let's turn the volume up. Hear that? Well, that's actually just going through a set of headphones via that cab clone over there that you might see just at the back. Yeah. So, out of the amp, into the cab clone, out of the cab clone, into the speakers. So I don't need that big box or anything else. That's fine. It's got a load on it. It's all good. It's been running for at least 15 minutes. And then what we're going to do now is to just take a look at the bias with the help of these things here. Yeah, it's all going to be good. So what we're going to do is zoom in close. I'm going to make a couple of adjustments. I'm going to set mine to about 75 on the meter. Yeah, hold on, let's zoom in closer. Okay, I made a bit of an adjustment. So for these two tubes, we're on 75.9 or 8. Might bring it down a little bit more. You can sort of tweak it around a little bit until you get it where you want it. It's not that easy. Okay, 74.9. Yeah, 75. It's pretty cool. That's where I want it. Now we get these other two tubes here from this side, and that's 73.3. So we can just bring that up again a little bit at a time. Oh, I got that quite that far. Okay, so take another look. 70, get that in a minute. 75, 74.1, and the other side 74.9. You see that? And I'm happy with that. Now then, as you saw on this meter, this particular meter, near as 75 as I want to get it, which is actually biasing it pretty high really, but that's okay. I could have done it 1,000 other ways. I could have gone internally and measured the internal volts and then done the maths and all the rest, but 75 both sides is going to work for you, and it'll probably work for you or me. Indeed, it'll work for me as well. Did I say that? I don't know. However, there are other ways of doing tests, and I just want to cover one of them right now. Now, one of the other ways that I've shown before is by using one of these things, a bias master. Now, the thing about the bias master is you put little connectors underneath each tube, and you still check them in pairs. But what I find with the bias master is it can be a bit problematic sometimes. Actually, it's harder to do with this than it was the way we just did it. Let me turn that off. Because what happens with this, it'll look at tube 1 and it might give me, say, 35, which is, it works by dividing by 2. So if you want 70, it should be 35 on here. You get that? Yeah, so when you go to number 2 tube, it should be near to the 35 that number 1 was set to. And when you go to number 3 tube, that should be near to 35, and number 4 tube as well. But what you tend to find, it's all fun, what you tend to find is that unless these tubes are matched exactly correctly, and these were just, I think these were Marshall tubes, maybe not. Anyway, the wing season, they were all set up as orange, whatever that means. So which should say that they're all about the same. But when I actually used the bias master, this one was at about 41 and this was at about 24. So I know that the matching of the tubes is actually not correct, but I can't tell that by checking it the way that we did with the Marshall settings. I need a bias master to see that. Of course, where the problem lies, okay, I've now got 2 tubes that are not matched so well. What am I going to do? What are you going to do? That's an even better question. Well, I tell you what you're going to do. You're going to go and measure it the other way. Because it all says everything's good. And yeah, you go from there. So let's put the bias master away. It has its place, but your tubes have to be really, for me, really nice, and then bias master comes into its own. If your tubes are not so nice, or they're like these, well, get the old meter out and do what they said. It's easier. Now, of course, this has been running for some while now. It's actually quite warm. In fact, it's very warm. And you should go back and check those tubes again to make sure there's no real drift, especially on this amp, the TSL100. It might be a DSL that you're on, but this is TSL100 JCM2000. And the thing is, on the old board, I mean, this is what all the problem's about, the drifting of the bias until the power tubes actually blow, or the board blows, or the something goes, and then you never get it back right. They cut around all sorts of things. Don't waste your time doing any of that. Just get yourself one of the revision 20 motherboards, issue 20 should I say, and it'll solve your problems. There's not this faffing around for hours on end. You just put a board in it and stop messing around. I'm glad I've done this one, and yeah, I'm just going to go and check those biases again now. Been running all this time, it's still running here, and it's on full whack, so I'm just going to check that. I'll be back. I'll report. Okay, I'm back. Well, this one actually drifted down to about 74.5 on the meter for both sides, give or take 0.01 or 0.2 or something like that. So I just pulled them back as near to 75 as I can get, and yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. It's been sitting like this for some time now, so it's had plenty of time to warm up. I can say, yeah, you can have a little fire off this one, but that's the same on most tube amps, isn't it? Okay, well, what I'm going to do now is put this back in its case, and then we can sort of have a quick chat a little bit more about that motherboard, the centre board, the main board, and just clear up the issues of the JCM2000 and how great it sounds. And I've got a piece of music for you to listen to, particularly to the lead guitar that was actually played through one of these on this this track off an album I did, and it's a really, really incredible guitar sound, if I say so myself. In fact, after all the tube amps I've ever had, this is why I bought this one, it's probably the best sounding amp I've ever owned out of every amp, and you can name them all. For this particular lead guitar sound, it was awesome. So I'll be back in a moment. Don't go anywhere, will you? So here we are. Back in its cab. Looks awesome, doesn't it? Check out the review where I recovered this amp for equivalent of about £80 or something like that. Maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more, but somewhere near that. And the net result is it's like brand new. Well, it was, except for the motherboard, but I didn't know that at the time. And the chances are, if you buy one of the older ones of these, that's got one of these early revisions, like I said, anything less than issue 20 is going to be trouble. Yeah. As it showed you on the diagram, sort of. Well, it didn't show you on the diagram, but it showed you the latest build, and it went up from number 7 to number 20 on the issue. So it makes a lot of difference. Yeah. A lot of guys will be put off and say, oh, it's a rubbish amp. I've seen it all over the internet. It's a rubbish amp. Oh, they have terrible troubles with it. Well, they do. That's absolutely true. They do. Funnily enough, when I had the amp that you're going to listen to in a short while, I never actually had any trouble with it. It was perfect. But I looked at this one. I decided to buy a board just for the sake of it. Just for the sake of it, on the basis that, well, I might have one of them old boards in. And sure enough, it did have one of them old boards in. This one, number 6, issue 6. So I could repair that little capacitor at the end and put the bigger capacitor in. I probably will do that. You know, the board seemed to be working fine, but as I said, well, like the internet says, it's riddled with these BIOS problems. But I don't think you'll find that you'll be getting those problems on the issue 20 board, and that's the important bit. Don't assume that, oh, I'm not buying one of those because this amp actually, I hate to say it, it's a really great sounding amp, for the studio at least. And you'll find with this new board in that it's going to be very reliable. I don't think they fail, in fact. So the comparison of this board, well, you've got that first thing that's missing, that C16. And you've got the C15, I think, yeah, C15 and C16, these connectors. You'll see them up there somewhere. And yeah, they're just not even on this board. Then you've got that other little mod to do with the relay that this board, again, doesn't have. The new board does have, so it's switched with a relay. It's probably better on the tone as well. And what else? Well, I'm sure there's other little ditties on this board that we could go and find. I mean, I've seen one guy saying that around the end of here it gets overheated and it can burn the layer of the board off on the earlier ones. Things like that. They say that the green material on the early boards can conduct electricity or power in one shape or another once it gets warm or hot. Well, I do have to say that this board is underneath the tubes, and does it get as hot as they say? Well, maybe, maybe not. My own view is it doesn't get as hot as having a hairdryer on it for 10 minutes. That doesn't seem to do that. But that's just my view. What do I know? So, I can highly recommend that you buy, believe it or not, a JCM2000, a TSL100, call it what you will, a triple super lead amp. And yeah, you can have a lot of fun with it. Don't worry about all this scaremongery about, oh, the lead on the back fails with the socket, and you can fix that. Or that this is one of the early revisions, and you know, and so on and so forth. We're going to listen to this one now. Like I said, this track that's coming up there, you'll see, it's called Metropolis, and I recorded this in about 2006 when I had one of these. I'd had one since about 2003 or 4, 2006. I notice on this one, serial on this I think is 2004, the date that is. So it would have probably had one of these old boards in it, but I never had any trouble. Just look at the draw maybe. But the fact is, it sounds great. Take a listen. Well, you get the idea. I mean, it's a very good sound, admittedly in the studio, but it was cranked and this awesome vocal lead tone, and it inspired me to write the track, and it's one of my better tracks. Anyway, that's the sort of thing I can get from it. Of course, we're going to go outside and just plug this in the studio to see what it sounds like. I might take that Strat out, that'd be a good idea. You know, the last one we built, the incredible guitar. We'll take that out again and maybe plug it into this and see what it sounds like, because yeah, it should be good. But I usually use humbuckers on this, I have to say, and I use that Ibanez for that track that you hear. Not the black one, but the 7VWH. There was that guitar and this amp, not this actual amp, but this model from 2004 or thereabouts, and I used it in 2006, so that was what the result was. Well, there's just another couple of little things that, well, we should mention, and I think I've sort of skimmed on them before, earlier in the video, or maybe just a little bit ago. It all relates to this, best have the right side, this capacitor, C46. I notice on the new one, on the newest board, the issue 20, that's actually 1 kilovolt. So it's been increased in its power rating, or its ability to work at higher voltages. But they still fail. But when I was looking earlier on, up there, you can see a picture of the 16 ohms speaker output. Now, this amp's a little bit peculiar in a number of ways, and one of the things is that when you plug in a 16 ohm speaker cable, it disconnects the ground from the other 4 and 8 ohm connections. Yeah, and of course the problem is when you take that speaker out, you've only got the connection that it makes while you take it out, and if it doesn't quite make a good connection, what happens is it actually puts a massive load on that capacitor, and the capacitor burns, or the board will burn, or this will burn, or that will burn. So what you really need to do is to go to that 16 ohm connector and solder the connector so it can't make or break the ground, so it's permanently made. That way you're not going to get any problems like you could have. Just a thought. There's a quick shot of all 3 of the output jacks. Okay, so there's JS3. I've taken a wire and soldered it to here, ran the wire over the top, and soldering it to the back of the arm. So the arm actually is free of the wire except at the back. So this bit can open up and down. When I pull the jack in and out, you'll see what I mean. And that's what you should have. So the front part will still make a connection and go up and down and have a bit of a spring effect, which is exactly what you want. Okay, that's right down now. Can't go down anymore if you look. Can't press it. Doesn't go down at all. So it's making a connection, proper connection with the side of this. And that's exactly what you want. Okay, it's all good. And of course, don't forget to snip the end of that piece of wire off that you're stuck on. So, now you know how to fix a TSL100. If you've got a problem with it that's taking the little capacitor out, you know how to fix that. Because when I looked on that 16 ohm switch on the earth, which is the furthest one out, the earth connector, the switch, it was all grey. And it's grey because it's getting stressed. So putting that little wire at the side, just running it round, just makes things so that you're not going to get any problems. Great answer. Nice and simple. That's what you want, isn't it? Yeah. So I'm not going to harp on about it anymore now. We're going to go outside, you're going to hear it, and rock and roll. And I hope this little review of what I've had to do to arrive at a result, actually resonates with people that might have a TSL or might want to buy one, because the fact is, these have got a bad name and you can buy them really cheap. And when you do buy it really cheap, honestly, it might cost you a little bit for the board. I don't know, 80, 90 pounds, maybe 120, 140 dollars or something like that. And you could argue that, well, that's too much, I don't want to spend that. But if you do, you're going to end up with an amp that's probably going to last you a long time. So my view was to buy a board, get a board in, and fit it to this amp so I can keep it for a long time. Because it's a really nice amp, don't you think? You don't? Well, you need to try one. Okay, so don't forget www.TonyMckenzie.com. Don't forget my YouTube channel. It's about 224 reviews now. That's a lot of reviews. And yeah, it's coming up. That away. Anytime now. Till next time, get out of here.